am ready. So, welcome everybody to the Ojai Historic Preservation Commission meeting. This is Thursday, July 9th, 2020, and we are holding this via Zoom. Sherry, can you take a roll call?
Chair Akins?
Here.
Vice Chair Quinn?
Here.
Commissioner James?
Here.
Commissioner Convery?
Here.
Commissioner McHatton?
Here.
2 vacancies. Thank you.
2 vacancies. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. Do you have that flag waiting for us? There we go. Okay, if you would stand, and Cindy, would you mind leading the pledge for us?
Sure.
Okay.
Everybody up?
Yep.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
United States of America,
and
and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Okay. It's our interesting way of measuring time lapse. Okay, public communications. Public communications submitted by email will be provided to the Historic Preservation Commission at this time. Matters raised at this time may be briefly discussed by the commission and will generally be referred to staff and are placed on a subsequent agenda. Under state law, other than for emergency items, no action can be taken at this meeting. So, after we held our meeting a month ago, I watched the Planning Commission meeting and I saw something interesting, and that was their 5-minute pause. So, Lucas, when do we have to do a 5-minute pause, and when would we do that?
So that is only for public hearing items. We do not have any public hearing items tonight.
Okay. Great. Because, folks, it gets really awkward watching nobody do anything for 5 minutes. Well, Steve Quillisi was looking at his watch. Okay, museum representative report. I did get some information from Wendy Barker, the Ojai Valley Museum Executive Director. She says not a lot to report due to new restrictions that came down July 1st. Closing museums for at least 3 weeks. We won't be opening in July after all. There had been, before the latest bout, there had been thought that the museum would open about July 10th or somewhere thereafter. Now possibly August, but that is still up in the air. Due to current COVID-19 situation, I can easily imagine the restriction being expanded. We've been busy helping a number of people with their research projects. This includes multiple people writing articles for the Ojai Quarterly and the Ojai Valley News, as well as the new owners of the El Roblar Hotel, and individuals with personal inquiries. We've matched with a peer reviewer for the museum assessment program who will be visiting us sometime after we reopen. So thank you, Ojai Valley Museum and Wendy. Consent items. All matters listed on the consent Someone say something? Nope. Okay, consent items. All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be considered routine by the governing bodies and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. There will be no discussion of these items unless, before the governing body votes on the motion to adopt, specific items are removed from the consent calendar for separate motions. We only have one item on the consent calendar, and that is the minutes of the meeting on June 11th, 2020, which was also held by Zoom. Any observations, any changes on the minutes for June 11th meeting? Go ahead and talk.
I have one for the agenda when we get to it, but not for the minutes.
One for the agenda?
Tonight's agenda.
Oh, okay. Okay. Anybody else for the minutes?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Hang on just a second. So I did on the second page of it, it says historian Pamela Post and Tim Hazeltine addressed the commission. Tim Hazeltine did address us, but I went back and looked through the meeting and Pamela Post did not make an appearance. So just that change. That's the only thing I had, Cindy.
Okay.
If
So-
you'd like to go ahead.
I make a motion to approve the minutes with that change, with that adjustment.
And I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great, thank you. Gina, you had a question on the agenda?
Yes, on the minutes, it's from our last agenda, under informational items, it says that the Downtown Historic District Ad Hoc Committee Progress Report, the CDD manager, Seibert, will reported this item will continue to be on the agenda for discussion, but then it doesn't show up on the agenda. Even though we don't really have a discussion, it should be on the agenda just so we can say nothing to report, but I'd like it to be on everyone.
Absolutely, thank you. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, we will move then to item number 2, discussion item, which is proposed plaque language for City of Ojai Historic Landmark number 26. Ojai Playhouse Theater located at 145 East Ojai Avenue. Lucas, can you give us a staff report on that, please?
Yeah, so this matter was heard before the commission on June 11th at our last regularly scheduled meeting via Zoom, and the item was continued to allow for and certainly allow for some revisions if necessary to be incorporated into the draft language for the plaque. That is now before the commission for consideration. I would also like to note 2 pieces of information, and Chair Akins, if you will. There is one that was submitted by public information. It was submitted by a public comment that was submitted by Elise DeVoit, and it was in 2 emails that went to the full commission for consideration for tonight's item 2 on the agenda. And hers is just revisions, minor revisions to the plaque language. And if I recall correctly, she had provided some context to that as well. So that was provided to the commission for consideration for tonight as well. And then in addition to that, Chair Akins has provided some minor revisions to the plaque language as well.
Great. Also at 4:27 this afternoon, Sherry forwarded a comment from Craig Walker. Did everybody see both Elisa's information and Craig's?
Yes.
Is Craig's the second one? That there was 2 in the email.
Well, there was just,
Oh, there is one for Craig. You're right.
There is, yeah. It came to us at 4:27.
Okay.
Sherry received it at 4:16.
Okay, I'll look that up.
Okay, well, I can read it for you. It says, this is Craig Walker to the chair, to Sherry, and then she sent it to each of us. It says, hello, in reviewing different options for wording the theater plaque, I would like to support Elise DePoit's wording. I think it hits the important historical facts, but also tells a story. It flows well, and she is responsible for so much of what we know about this important building. I think people will enjoy reading it. Thank you, Craig Walker. I also had Sherry mail out 2 items. One was I looked through the mock-up that Sherry sent us as a part of our package for today, and I did some revisions to that. Just a couple of things. Changed around wording. I was reading through what Elise had to say in her comments. The other one says Ojai Playhouse Theater proposed plaque text, Elise DePoit. And in Elisa's email, she had several numbered observations, and then she had this at the end of her email. And I sent this out separate because I just wanted to make sure everybody had a copy of this for tonight's meeting. So to start it off, usually I wait, but I earlier, when I sent this earlier to Sherry, in spite of going through and trying to make some corrections, I, as Craig later emphasized, I really like what Elise said. Elise, when the museum, interesting thing. So the museum set up an exhibit that basically focused on the playhouse, on the theater. Elise was the one who researched that exhibit for them, for the museum, and then the exhibit actually involved several town talks that were going to be at the theater, and of course we all know that the water line blew out and the theater is still closed. But Elise was the one that did the research for that exhibit. So, you know, for my 2 cents, I went through Elise's text. It includes a lot of information put into a stream that flows. I know one of the things was in the last meeting, we were concerned about the number of words. I counted the words in this revision, and there were 266 words on that. I counted the number of words into the mock-up on the Ojai Playhouse Theater, and there were 239. So those are my thoughts. And now, anyone else that would like to weigh in, please do.
I would like to weigh in.
Okay, Gina.
Hi. Yeah, I really like Elise's wording. I know that when I'm on my own historic walks, that this is the kind of information I like to read. I like to read a full understanding of why this building is significant. I think she hit all the marks on it. And as we all know, if Elise put it out, it's well researched. She did all the she did so much of it, and she did the historic walks using this information. And when you're doing those walks over and over again, and you see what works with the people who you're talking to and what doesn't, I'm sure she realized what caught their interest and what didn't. And that is what the result of what we're reading here is, what worked on her walks as well as her research. So I support Elise's wording for the plaque.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that she did, while she was here, conduct the historic walks for a number of years. Thank you. Thank you, Gina.
I have a comment.
Yes, Cindy.
The only thing about Elise's plaque language, which I like, but I feel like on the last paragraph, I'm really missing hearing the Ojai Theater is the oldest operating theater in Ventura County. I think gives it a unique position. So I'd like to keep that as the last paragraph.
Excellent.
Rather than, I think what she says is one thing, but it's kind of loose and it's not specific to the theater. So I'd rather have it say the Ojai Playhouse Theater is the oldest operating theater in Ventura County.
Can I talk again?
Yes, certainly, Gina.
Can we also, I think that is important, that is good information, but can we leave that last line about entertain multiple generations of Ojai residents? I really think you do walk away with a sense of connection to it that I think is really good, because you see that past, present, and future Ojai residents and the importance of this building to it.
I think Cindy, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cindy was suggesting just adding that closing paragraph that's on the mock-up behind that paragraph that ends there. Is that correct, Cindy?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I did have one other just very small thing. In the opening paragraph, it says, her second sentence says opening as the ISIS Theater. I would like it to say originally named the ISIS Theater. I think it's more clear. Just originally named the ISIS Theater. It was built blah, 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 blah.
Okay, no.
I think it's just clearer, more clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thais, Valerie?
Yes, I like everything that everyone said except for one thing. I really do think that the Mission Revival style period is really important, and it does fit really perfectly into that period. And that's one of the defining characteristics of a landmark, is that it fits into the period.
Uh-huh.
So I actually looked up the Mission Revival style, and it said it was roughly 1890s to 1940.
Right.
But most of the original were done prior to the Great Depression. Most of the really accurate styles were done prior to the Great Depression. So I do think it's important. I know Elise doesn't, but I do.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I think, that the first Mission Revival style building, for me, it set the tone for exactly what you're saying, since, it set the invitation for the rest of the downtown.
Yeah. It's just that for a style to be, an architectural style to be actually historical, it needs to be built within the historical period. Just like an Impressionist painting, if you painted one now, it would not technically be an Impressionist painting because it's not painted within the period of the style.
Okay. Is that just for our information, or are you looking to include that?
No, I just thought it was okay to leave it on the sign if you have room. If you don't,
Yeah, I'm just worried about being at 266, but that's a very good comment. And as you said, it was being within the 1890s to 1940s. Thais?
I also like Elise's, but in the next to the last paragraph, she states this historical landmark designation is for the exterior of the building. I don't think that needs to be in there. That's pretty much the way it is on all of them. So I just think we should stop after the repairs. And then to Commissioner Convery's statement about the operating, I personally am concerned that it's ever going to come back as a.
Oh, right, yeah.
I hope it is, but I'm wondering if you, Cindy, might think of a way to word it where it doesn't sound like it's still operating now, but at the time, 6 years ago, it had been that.
Thais, also, because it says 100 years the theater has entertained, and it's not doing that now. So you're right. Maybe we could say the Ojai Playhouse Theater is the oldest designated movie theater in Ventura County, or something like that. Not operating, a different word,
I haven't thought in my mind because you just mentioned it, so I haven't thought of a way to say it.
Yeah.
But I hope and pray it comes back as a theater, but we have no guarantee of that really. So maybe someone has an idea of how to reword that, or and you of course wrote that other lovely one too. So
designated, can we say designated? The oldest designated movie theater in Ventura County?
That'd be fine with me.
Because it is designated.
The oldest.
Rather than operating.
How about something like, I don't know.
Are you there?
I can hear somebody talking, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's my son-in-law in the other room trying to figure out what they're going to order from Casa de Lago for dinner.
Okay, well, order me something too. Okay.
I can hear that's why before I had the headphones and the mouth on, because I knew I got family right on the other side of the door. Yeah, I mean, the joke is even when we're camping at Lake Casitas, we still order dinner from Casa. At least one night. Okay, so
Brian, can you incorporate what everyone said and read or Sherry, read the last paragraph so maybe we could take action on this tonight?
Well, can I just say one more thing? Because I just looked at this and I think in the last line of Elise's, if we took out the has entertained, if we just said for over 100 years the theater entertained, it doesn't say when.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that fixes it. In case it never did come back as a theater, which we're all hoping it does.
Right. And it would still be true even if it did come back. So,
Mhm.
Okay, so let's see. So let's see. So Valerie, going back to your observation,
Mhm.
I you know, is it covered knowing the time frame we're talking about, 1914, and the first mission revival style building in the town center?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just good to know if somehow to know that it was built in the mission revival style period, because that's a defining characteristic of a landmark is that it was.
Okay, so if we just added period
Mhm.
right
Instead-
after revival style.
well, you could leave style out and just say the first mission revival
Period.
period building.
But yeah, you could say that.
Okay, so period. Okay, so let me see if I have it. So the change is on that second sentence. Originally named the ISIS Theater, it was built in the Mission Revival style, the first Mission Revival period building.
Yes, I like that.
In the town center. Okay, and then we jump down to the second to last paragraph. We deleted this historic landmark designation is for the exterior of the building.
Yeah.
And then we kept that next paragraph and we finished with the Ojai Playhouse Theater is the oldest designated movie theater in Ventura County.
That should go before the last sentence that Elise has, I think.
Yeah, that will be the second to last sentence.
Right.
Should I make it part of that last paragraph, but have it be the first sentence?
It'll be the second sentence, sorry, of the last paragraph.
Yeah.
Oh, before for over 100.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'll work. I think I got this.
And the for over 100 years, the theater entertained multiple generations.
That's right. Thank you. Excellent. Okay.
That's it.
I'll work with Sherry. Sherry's much better at doing this than I am. So I'll give Sherry a call tomorrow. So do we want to make a motion or any other questions or?
I would like to make a motion on this, that we use Elisa's wording with the changes that we just made.
I second that motion.
Great. Sherry, can you take a roll call, please?
Yep. Akins,
Yes.
Quinn,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Convery,
Yes.
McHatton.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you all. Let's see. Okay. Item number 3. I'm going to bring Lucas in. So if you look at that schedule that we have there, Lucas, do you know the address for where Circana Global Goods is going to go in there in the arcade?
It's 306. Yeah, it's where Kindred Spirits was at.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay. And so, so they want a sign permit. So we will review that at next week's or next month's meeting.
Right. It's a sign permit as well as minor exterior modifications, which is really painting is what they're doing.
So some colors on the framing or the some highlights on it.
Correct. It'd be yes, exactly.
Okay. So maybe a suggestion that if people haven't been there, that they take a look between now and the next meeting. Would that be helpful? Would for me.
Yes, it would certainly be helpful.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you. Also for August 13th is the nomination or the discussion for the annual Historic Preservation Award. By the way, I got an email already from somebody with a name for that suggestion. So I'll pass that along to Lucas.
Okay.
Discuss plaque requirement and fees as requested by the commission. Can you remind us what that's about?
So currently, is that to me? Are you punting that?
Yes,
to me?
please.
Okay.
Yes, you.
Currently, there is no fee schedule for plaques. So typically, the city eats that cost. But a lot of the times, it is an applicant that is asking for the designation and going through the process, and it's typically a designation and a Mills Act. Not always, but typically. So here, what we're saying here is to have that discussion about plaque, a fee assigned to basically it's recouping the cost of what that plaque would cost the city.
Okay.
So obviously that cost varies. I think it's in the neighborhood of $300 to over $1,000, right? Yeah, like the larger they are, obviously, the more expensive they get. I think Sherry was telling me the most expensive one that we've seen come across her desk was something in the neighborhood of $1,400. So
I'm thinking that's a Nordhoff school.
I think you're right.
Yeah, it was
Brian, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Brian,
Go
could
right
we go
ahead.
back to the Historic Preservation Award? Last year, Sherry sent us all copies of the people who had already received the award. Could we have that sent again, please?
Lucas?
Yes, absolutely. We can make that a part of the staff report that'll come forward.
That'd be great.
Great. Thank you, Thais. Okay, fee schedule. Major work permit. This is 410 Tico. We didn't do the, hey, where did you go in between our last meeting? But I did go and do a physical tour at the 410 Tico house last Friday, I think it was. So, and I know, Valerie?
Yeah, I did too.
Okay.
I went.
I also went.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
went.
Okay. So I think Gina is the only one that hasn't been yet, and she's just looking at her schedule.
Correct.
Okay. The other thing I threw in September 10th, got our fingers crossed, I think, who knows, is Ojai Day preparation, since that's normally in October.
Sounds good.
Is it the second Saturday or third Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's the third Saturday
Okay.
in September.
Okay. So
About
usually in September, in a normal time period, we would start to rouse people and make assignments. Anything else that people see that should be included in the future agenda items?
I do think that if we don't do Ojai Day, that maybe we should do some virtual things, maybe with the jail doing a tour. We can
Ooh,
something like that.
I like it. I like it. Any other things we need on the future agenda items? Not hearing it. Anything else from the commissioners? The council, I was at watching the last council meeting. They have not brought up, they've been tied up with the budget and with several other items that are taking place and some current activities. And so them saying, okay, all you folks that have applied for the next round of being commissioners, they haven't talked about that at all. And of course, until they give the go-ahead on commissioners that are coming back, we of course can't do our elections. Have you heard anything more, Lucas?
Not at this point, but that is correct. We can't necessarily have an election for a chair, vice chair until we have all seats officially butts in seats, essentially.
Okay. Planning report, Lucas, anything else that we need to know about that's coming up?
Nothing that's on my agenda for right now. we do have items on these next couple of meetings. So certainly we will be holding Historic Preservation Commission meetings with major work permits moving forward.
Great, thank you. Any other commissioner comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
I thought I read in the paper that the council had decided to make the commission 5 members. Did I read that incorrectly?
So at the last HPC meeting we held, I had attended the council meeting just before that, where there was this line in talking about the commissions and attendance that said, and maybe you wanted to make an adjustment at that time. And that's when the discussion came up on going to 5 commission members. And part of that was that the planning commission or the rec commission had indicated that they were okay to go to 5. As you know, the planning commission is always at 5. Bill Wyrick, who happened to be talking to an art commission member, that person had shared with him, maybe in anticipation of that meeting, that the art commission would like to stay at 7 because they do all kinds of ad hoc committees, which I still have a question on how you can have standing ad hoc committees. And so that's when they were trending towards having 5 commissioners. And so they had instructed the staff to go forth and come back with what changes would need to be made to the municipal code to take the commissions other than the art commission, that at least those that aren't already there, to 5. And so I think it was the next day in the Ojai paper, you saw that article that was in there talking about going to 5.
Well, I read it as that they had approved it, and it was after our last meeting. So so assuming that they've not approved it, I would like whoever to put our statement in that we need 7, because as Gina mentioned last month, we can't get the historic district off the ground when we only have 2 people that can talk to each other. So I think it's a really important point that we make it clear to the council that we need 7.
Yeah. So what I've been, and we shared that at our last meeting, that we were all in line with keeping us at 7, and for good points like you just made, Thais. And so what I'm waiting for, and every time the agenda comes out, I watch it closely, is that's going to come up again to us. And my thought, and people can give me their thoughts, is to wait for that agenda item to come up rather than burning capital now saying, hey, please don't do this to us. Because informally, I've already done that with one commission member who was talking to me about something else. Does that make sense?
Well, it does and it doesn't, because it seems like if you wait till then, they might just do what they already had talked about doing. Whereas if you tell them ahead of time that you're going to be coming with this, they might take that into consideration along the way. I don't know. I thought about myself, now that we can't go to the meeting, writing a letter for comments, just stating that. So, but I bow to your whatever.
I think that's a great idea to go ahead and do that. So letters to the council are sent to Luis Gomez.
Okay.
As you may know, Luis is kind of the gatekeeper for James, and he is the one that usually gets those passed on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would encourage everybody to go ahead and write a letter now, as you suggest, Thais. Yes.
I agree with Thais, and I disagree with your thought about burning capital. I think that council members need to know that it is important to get the historic core done, and we can't do it with 5 members. And if they know that now, they'll take it into consideration rather than thinking, well, we haven't heard from anyone, so they must be okay with this because it was in the paper, and if it bothers them, why haven't we heard? So I really feel strongly that you should express on behalf of whoever of this body agrees with this, to whoever you run into at City Hall, that we want to be 7 people because we need these ad hoc committees in a similar way that the Arts Commission does, a very similar way. And I feel like if they're aware of that individually, they'll take it, they'll have a little time to sleep on it before they just throw it on the agenda and go into it, you know?
I agree. Yes, go ahead.
I do remember at our last, I think it was our last meeting with Lucas, when we expressed our desire to stay at 7, and that you said that you would share that information if it came time to happen, that you would represent us with our desire to stay at 7. Is that correct?
Yes, and I did share it informally with someone who is involved. So the letter writing campaign is the way to do it now. And Lucas may know better, but at the last council meeting, which was just over 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks and 2 days ago, I was told by one of the council members that they would be meeting, is it in camera, in person? Lucas, do you know anything about when the city council will resume holding in-person meetings?
We've been discussing it, but I don't know that it's been set officially in terms of when we're going to start potentially having in-camera meetings versus the Zoom.
Okay.
Can I just I'm hearing a lot of really good insight into the 5 to 7 and sticking with 7 as 7 commissioner members. I know you're using the platform of the Downtown Historic District Core designation as, you know, needing three individuals on a subcommittee to talk it through. Is there any issues with us having this on the agenda and having that discussion with all 5? It's on the agenda.
Yeah, the reason it would be our meeting, if we have a full agenda, maybe we talk 10 minutes about it. This is when we meet, the last time we met, it was well over an hour just talking about the preliminary, assigning each of us duties. When you're talking about just, if we can't talk in between because of Brown Act, and so it just limits us to the agenda for these little tiny bits of moments, especially if we have like a full, like we did last month. It doesn't allow us any time to do the work.
Yeah. Well, in terms of, I mean, and I appreciate that comment. I mean, Planning Commission right now, we're diving into Title 10, and we're going in depth into Title 10 in terms of making revisions, and not doing it at a subcommittee level, but doing it at a public hearing. Well, not a public hearing yet, but as a discussion item. I don't see why we couldn't necessarily do that, and obviously it's up to the commission, but do that at a commission level. Do the research, come back, have that discussion. There's nothing wrong with having a discussion. I mean, sometimes with the Title 10, we're talking for 3-4 hours about these items and digging in.
And we actually did that same thing when we were starting to revise the code for historical preservation.
Right.
And it finally got pulled because it's all we were doing. And there wasn't time, and we didn't feel, well, I didn't, I'll just say I didn't feel it was an efficient way to deal with it, but the council didn't feel it was either, because it was taking forever when we had to fit it in between what the real business we're doing. And I just want to say one other thing. I sometimes feel like the council is not really backing the city's historical the history, because we don't have a representative at our meetings. When it's discussed, it's like we're like the stepdaughter instead of the, that they think it's really important. But for me, I think it's way more important than even the art, because the art can change. But once these houses go, they are gone.
Uh-huh.
So I would like to see us be afforded a little, I don't know, just make me feel like the city cares about us, I think.
Yeah, but just about this 5 versus 7, the issue of 5 council members or 5 commissioners versus 7 first came to light or got voice in 2014. When those city council members were elected in 2014, that's when the conversation started. Why then? I do not know. I have thoughts. First of all, we work for free, so what's the big deal? You know, you get 7 pieces of advice, 7 voters, 7 people working for free on really important agenda items. So I don't know where I have my suspicions about where the challenges are with that, but technically it shouldn't be an issue. And I think it's a bigger picture than just the historic downtown corridor, because there are ongoing challenges on every commission. I really think the planning commission should be 7 to 9 people. I mean, I think it's terrifying that it's only 5 people. That's like really scary to me. But I do think there is another agenda about lowering the size of the commission. It's just speculation, and I can't give it voice, but I think it's an issue.
I have a,
You know, we have a lot of Ojai's the only town without a historic downtown corridor. You know, it's scary because it's one of the jewels in the Ventura Crown and it's not protected. It's insane. That's it.
and it's going to take a lot of hours to do. And I don't think we can do it during a meeting. I really don't. Not to mention, I don't know if we have to use everyone's talents for different things during this, whether it's research or whether it's reaching out to the public or all these different things. Being in an ad hoc where you can utilize people for what they need and use, not have to have somebody who, let's say, is involved in research have to sit through conversations about outreach for hours during a meeting, rather than having us all utilizing us the best that we can for our talents. I also think that, I don't know if this is true, Lucas, but I feel like every time a position gets filled on one of the commissions, someone else leaves. And I know that's a lot of time, even if our salaries, we don't get a salary and we're doing it in our, on a no cost, but maybe it's the cost of the search, the interview process, all of that. I don't know if it's possible, but is there a way to make it so maybe the chair and the co-chair can do a preliminary interviews and maybe just bring the top 2 candidates to the mayor? I mean, when I interviewed, it was with the mayor and it was with a councilman. So whatever it is that is holding it up, maybe we can fix it on the back end and being able to keep us at 7. If it's a time that hours that the staff that are actually getting paid is wasting on all these interviews and these vacant seats, maybe we can fix it on the back end.
I think it's a different issue, but don't know what it is.
So there's a couple things. As Cindy said, they've been pushing this. I mean, this is the 4th time it's come up that I remember, and I go to every meeting where they might be an inkling. The other thing that's come up recently, and again, it was an external lawsuit that caused it, is that with this election that's coming up, the city council as well as the school board are being voted on via districts, where I think there's 5 different districts and only the voters within those districts can vote for their representative. And so the thought that's been expressed is that each person in the, say, District 1, whoever that is, could pick someone, and it doesn't have to be from their own district, gets to pick someone to put on the commission. District 2, someone to put on the commission. Again, it doesn't have to even be from within their commission, and they're still allowing for people that are outside the city to be on the commission, which is a good thing for me. So I think that 5 district representation has been part of it. I know it's been part of the discussion since that happened.
I add to that. So what I see wrong with that idea is when it's time for my renewal, I'll just talk about myself. I would have to go and talk to all of the councilmen just so that I could be sure that somebody would recommend me instead of them recommending their next door neighbor or someone who they might like better. I don't feel that that's a way to get the best people for these jobs. Because it's not like I could just go to the person of my district, as you said, because my district guy might pick somebody from a different district. So then I have to go talk to everybody. Seems pretty inefficient.
Yeah.
You know, that's an excellent point, Thais, that I hadn't thought about. Yes, Cindy.
Brian, I think the whole district thing is isolating and pits people against each other as well. You know, Ojai's a pretty small town, and it should be one town, not, you know, like Gryffindor and Hufflepuff or whatever it is. You know, it's not a bunch of clubs. And I think that's kind of a very clubby mentality to do that. I really don't like that.
Well, it was a lawsuit that caused it to happen.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as Ojai's concerned, we don't have to do that. We don't have to go down that road, you know, especially with the commissions.
But it's better to stay ahead of something like that. I can understand why they're doing it, but as far as the commissions, are we part of that? I can understand how we have different districts representatives for the council, and I understand how the council would want to stay ahead of a lawsuit before it happened. Makes perfect sense. But with the commissioners, having what we do, having people with experience in historic preservation, interest in it, having people who are both in town and out of the area, a certain number, those factors seem to, especially with a non-paid thing like a commission, it doesn't seem like we would be part of that concern with the new law or lawsuit.
No. Lucas, have they thought of, and I think the Ojai Valley News would probably donate it because they're so close to the city, putting in a quarter page or a half page or a big ad saying we need a commissioner on HPC apply now, because people don't go on the city website. You know, I barely know anyone who gets the city of Ojai emails. I have to forward them to people. And if we had a big ad in the newspaper, you'd have, you know, a few applicants for sure, but nobody knows about it unless the five of us go out looking for people in our circles.
Right. I can check in with Gail and see what procedures she follows.
See if the paper will do it for free. I don't see why not. It's in their best interest, makes them look good, and people do read it, you know.
There was an ad, I think, just last week for, Lucas, you can correct me, but for the arts, needing an arts commissioner.
There was. It was for the Arts Commission.
Yeah.
Nice big ad.
Yeah.
How
I
big
think
is a nice big ad? Is it like 2 inches or is it like half a page?
maybe 3 by 3, maybe.
It was
Big.
So I watched the ads. They have, as near as I can remember and tell, because I look all the time for them. Sometimes they're buried in the small worded type in the back for the fictitious businesses. But I only since Elise left seen one ad that talked about an opening for a historic preservation commissioner. One.
I think that's because we don't have permission to have 2 more members. I think the council has pretty much put a stop to that.
It seems like
And I've asked that exact question. I mean, I've asked that question when we had a number of months ago, would have been a lot of months ago. If you remember right, we had Sousa that came in and visited, and we asked that question of her. It was
right.
I do think that having in the past Terry Hill, or just in my time, Craig and Elise and Terry, having a historian versus somebody who just saw an ad is also important.
But it's not somebody who just saw an ad. You know, I mean, like Drew Mashburn is on the Parks Commission. He wanted to be on HPC. He's the right guy to be on it. He knows everything. But somehow he got shuttled off to Parks and Recreation. There are a lot of people who live here who aren't aware of the vacancies because they're not aware of it. I think you'd get a lot of interest from people who've been here for a long time and know what they're talking about. You're not going to get some random person who doesn't.
That's true.
You know,
it's not a lot of
it's not a fair
a lot
thing
of people are going to want to
And I also think that one of the arguments that the city council is going to use is that, well, you guys have had these vacancies for a while and no one's applied. But the burden has been on basically us to go out and find new commissioners. And we can't do that. You know, I mean, I don't know a lot of potential commissioners because I'm busy working and we're all busy doing our lives. But so there needs to be an active search. And literally by saying there's a commissioner opening on the city website, I don't know anybody that goes onto the city website except me. You know, and maybe Brian and maybe Tyson. You know, a lot
Yeah,
of
I do go on there.
people are trolling the city of Ojai website. So I think that's an argument that the city council is going to come back with. Why are these vacancies there if we need the spots?
I've been hesitant to suggest it to anybody because Craig, and at least I know that Craig sent me a list of about 4 or 5 names, and I didn't want to reach out to anybody if it's going to be at 5. Just why make someone go through the motions and the excitement and everything if it's not going to happen?
It's not. We have to fight for it, Gina. You know, we have to say, look, here are these valuable people. They're knowledgeable. We need them. It doesn't cost you anything. What really is the problem? What's the underlying issue with this? You know, why? If you have people that want to work for free, why is that a problem? I don't know what the answer would be to that.
Do you have any ideas, Lucas?
Look, I can check in with Gail in terms of the ad in the paper and whether or not that was done, and then what the typical process is in terms of how we get information out for each of the commissions. I'm assuming that it's consistent across the board, but let me check in with Gail and I'll report back to the commission on this.
That would be great. Okay. Great
fun.
talk. Great. Thank you all. Anything else? Okay, where's my gavel? I found my stapler. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.